is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with Andy of the 500. Thanks for being here today, man. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, it's awesome to have you here. I was just listening to the brand new album, A World on Fire. It's absolutely awesome, really brutal, and really enjoyable. Do you just want to talk about like how the making of this was? Like, was there sort of like a preconceived idea of what you wanted this to sound like, or was there a lot of improvising involved? How did A World on Fire sort of see the light of day?
It depends. I suppose musically, what all we wanted to do was take it a step up from Bleed Red, which was the last album. We wanted the music to be catchier but heavier at the same time. We wanted to push ourselves musically from a technical perspective, and explore different like lyrical concepts and stuff and lyrical themes and stuff that we were thinking about at the time. Obviously, with the pandemic getting in the way, there's a lot of stuff. We had to improvise a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if like the title of this album was maybe influenced by the direction that the whole world took lately.
Yeah. I mean, the main inspiration behind the album name is, I think, probably comes obviously partially, I suppose, the pandemic. There's aspects of that. A couple of the songs touch on, the isolation stuff that we experienced, which has been difficult for a lot of people. But at the same time, there was a very personal feeling from Mark, one of our guitarists, who he actually works for a company that delivers flood warning systems at a national level. So it's to assist government and public bodies predicting when natural disasters are about to hit.
Oh wow.
And it's really close to his heart. And obviously, the whole world seems to be experiencing these climate change issues and huge heats and then massive floods and all this type of stuff. And it was just one of the things we wanted to talk about this time round, rather than talk just about some of the stuff that we've been through as a band.
hmm So there was a lot more like external sources of inspiration that was driven into this album. It wasn't mainly just about experiences there was almost like maybe like a lot of research involved.
Yeah, some of it obviously is very is personal and was to do with some of the stuff that we've been going through, partially during the pandemic, and maybe a continuation almost from stuff we spoke about in Bleed Red. But what we wanted to use the inspiration that we've got in other areas to write the music this time, rather than focus on some of the personal issues that we've been through.
With the singles that we heard so far off this album, such as The Rising Tide and Our Demise, which I think, those song titles go very well with the theme of this album. But like in terms of the sound, do you think that serves as a clear representation of what's in store for this album, or is there a lot more to be discovered beyond the four singles that you released so far?
The singles, the weird thing obviously is that a couple of the singles didn't come out. They came out ages ago, and because of the pandemic, we had to delay the recording and delay the writing of the rest of the album. Certainly the singles are some of the catchier material, I'd say. The rest of the album, it's got a few surprises in there for a few people. If they'd heard Bleed Red, they might think, oh, okay, I didn't expect that, or that's a lot heavier than we expected. We've got a couple of guest vocalists on this album as well, to introduce some really sort of, death metal-y, guttural influence that we like as well. And there's also some really soft parts that I think, we're quite good at doing that. It's just, and to be honest, I think we'll probably explore that even more on the third album.
Yeah, you had the vocalist of Cabal on one track, right?
Yeah. Andreas jumped on a track, and that was really cool.
Yeah, I interviewed Andreas on their first North American tour, like right before the world ended. Like they completed their tour like the day before everything was like they were on their way home right as everything was falling.
Yeah, I'm glad they made it out there at least.
Yeah,
it's a big aspiration of us to come over and play over there, man.
Yeah, we would love to have you here in the U.S. as well. And being the bass player of the band, because being that bass has such an emphasis on both rhythm and melody, do you prefer to have music before you lay down, bass parts, or do you sometimes have like a bass pattern written down that the rest of the band could write according to?
Well, actually, I write most of the music. So I I I write most of it on guitar first. So for this album, for example, I think 7 of the 10 tracks, um, but then a couple of the others were written by Paul. And I mean, it varies really. Sometimes I've picked up a bass part, and then that's developed into a whole verse or a chorus maybe. But normally, if I'm writing anything, that's certainly the same with Paul. It's guitar based initially. But I've definitely got, like you talk about the rhythmic stuff, I've definitely got that in the back of my mind a lot of the time. And once I've written the guitar parts, I'll just do whatever fits best for bass. So sometimes I'll just lock in with a kick drum. Sometimes I'll sit back and let the guitars do their thing. There's lots of solos on the record, which Paul smashes every time.
Yeah.
And I can't play as well as him. I'm just
Yeah.
I can just write some good riffs. But so yeah, it's a mix. It's a mix.
And did hearing about this concept of like the world of natural disasters and everything that you've been hearing, has that like influenced the sound as well of how you were writing? Did that change how you approach the songwriting for this?
Not really. I'll be honest. Not really. There was a desire and a plan to write stuff that was, would get circle pits going, but then also get people singing along to you. And that, as an example, it's come at a good time. Like we played our first show in 18 months on Sunday night.
Oh, really?
Here in Nottingham. And I mean, it was incredible. Just thinking about it now is making my hair stand up on my arms and stuff. And we had people singing back the songs, singing back the choruses, people that had heard the singles, and they knew those already. So that was wicked. And let's see what happens with the rest of the album.
Yeah, you guys are fully open back up now, right? So shows have been happening and everything.
Yeah, sort of. We've had a few other shows. We were meant to be going abroad next month for a couple of shows, and they've just been cancelled. Our show was up in the air up until about a month ago, and then they were like, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went ahead, and it looks like at the moment things are going to stay that way.
Yeah, and it's great to see that shows are happening again. And I mean, the first show in 18 months, I mean, that had to have felt like a historical moment for the band, right? It wasn't just like...
Yeah.
Because there are bands that do take that long between album cycles sometimes, but this didn't feel like a break between album cycles.
No, this is a forced break. It's unfortunate. We had a really good run after Bleed Red, and we'd done some really good shows, a couple of good UK tours, and then we played like Download Festival, and then we sort of finished that year planning to write the new album, and then all of a sudden the pandemic got in the way, and we were like, oh fuck, now what are we gonna do? But we're releasing it at a good time. Obviously, it officially comes out tomorrow, so hopefully anybody that watches this or listens to this can pick it up tomorrow.
Yeah, and
would love to hear what people think about it.
And I know like some bands hate this sort of label and everything like that, but I feel like many people would label the 500 under that sort of metalcore category with its melodic and heavier aspects behind it. I mean, were you like affiliated with like the sort of UK metalcore scene? I mean, talking to your friends at Long Branch Records with As Everything Unfolds and Ghost Iris and all of those bands, but also the great era of bands such as Loathe and Bury Tomorrow and Architects and so much. Were you all kind of like affiliated in that scene in a way?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. Like, we've done shows with probably all of the bands you mentioned, but it included, I mean, we played with Architects like 20 years ago before they were the massive band they are now. In a room for like 40, with about 40 people in the room. It's crazy.
Wow.
But, yeah, mad. But yeah, we played with most of those bands. We never set out to write music that was metalcore. It just kind of happened that way, because early on when we were writing music together as a band, it was mostly heavy. It was really really heavy stuff, and there's only little bits of singing stuff here and there. And then when John joined the band, who's our current vocalist, and he's only been in it for like I suppose 6 years, but previously we had a different singer. So the music was written differently as soon as we got John in the band, and he's got a very like grunge-esque influence to his vocals. So like some of his favorite bands of Soundgarden and Alice in Chains and stuff like that. So we started writing stuff that he wanted to sing to, and it kind of just developed that way. Like it's a bit weird, like, and you're right, because the metalcore label is a bit, it's not great. I'd rather be known as the 500, not
Yeah.
like a metalcore band.
Yeah. Well, the UK is like almost like one big Warped Tour now, with like so many bands of that sort of style. And I've always said that that metalcore has been the UK's greatest export, because New England is also the metalcore capital of North America, and Australia is also now like the big metalcore capital. I see India and South Africa and Egypt being like the new big metalcore hubs. I just don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know why either. I think, to be honest, I think we're going to try really hard on the next album to do a lot less. We're going to do something people don't expect as much, I think, is the plan.
Well, I've
And we're
noticed.
going to be consciously do it.
Well, I've noticed in the Bring Me the Horizons, if you look at like the Bring Me the Horizons and the Dance Gavin Dances and the Crown the Empires, like, and even the I Prevails, like a lot of those bands started off as heavy metalcore. Like I remember when Dance Gavin Dance was opening up for Upon a Burning Body, and like and now like they're really not that style at all. They have like that sort of soft pop punk sort of vibe behind it. I mean, it's working in their favor, but like I've noticed that that's been the sort of like transition in a way.
Yeah, I mean, for us, I think it's just a natural thing because John's always wanted to sing, and like he enjoys singing more than screaming. He's into singing music a lot more than metalcore bands, and we've got quite a different range of ages in our band now. So we've got young influences in our drummer who's only like 22, and they've got John who's 39. So it's like a really different range. So there's a lot of people that can bring different ideas and different sounds into what we create. But yeah,
Yeah, that's definitely an
it is what it
advantage.
is. Metalcore's just what it's called, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think that's a real advantage for the band too. I think that that's to have multiple influences. If everybody came in liking Slayer, I don't think that there would be much originality.
No, I mean our solos would still be better than Kerry King's, but
Ooh,
um,
shots fired.
but we wouldn't write riffs like them, obviously. So
Yeah, it does. And being that you write a good portion of the music, does every song sort of start in a similar way, or does every song have more like its own approach?
um, well, I tend to have a plan. So I'll find a drum pattern that I like, and then I'll start jamming over it. I'll loop a drum pattern, and I'll start jamming some ideas, and imagine how it feels, and imagine what it might be like on stage, how it might look like if we were performing it, what type of reaction we'd get from a crowd. And then another song might be, I'll be like, let's get something really fucking fast, and I'll go 200 BPM, and let's start writing something to match that drum pattern. And then sometimes I'll consciously slow it down for a 4-chord chorus and let John, let John really, stand out. That's so it's there's no like set plan every time, but there's definitely a conscious decision when I'm writing some stuff. I think Paul probably does the same, but it's definitely how I do it.
Yeah, it's almost like it's not completely subconscious, but it is very organic.
Yeah, definitely.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the world hearing the world on fire. Is there just anything else that you would like to promote? Like, is there any more shows that you have planned coming up? And please, for the love of God, get your asses to the USA one day.
Well, Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you for having me. Thank you first for taking time out. Secondly, 100%, if we could come to America, I mean, and we'll stay on people's couches, wherever the fuck, I don't care. We'd love to go out and tour America. If any band wants to take us out there, that'd be amazing. Um, we've got a lot of stuff lined up for the rest of the year. We've just, started to work with a new management company, and we're going to be looking at taking on a new booking agent. So hopefully we'll be seeing us onto some better stuff. Like there's some cool stuff lined up. So we've got a load of shows booked. I don't know. You just have to check all the socials for all the dates, but everything's been announced on Facebook. / We Are the 500 at the 500 underscore for Instagram, and everything's on there. We've got a few headline shows coming up in September, and then I think a couple of little small festivals, and then November we're doing like 8 dates around UK.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah.
So that should be fun. Dust off the cobwebs.
Yeah, it seems like just the UK in itself is just like a massive place just to tour alone. Like that, I've noticed like with the UK, like you could actually do like a whole full like month-long tour just there alone, and it'll be good.
Yeah. The only difference is that we could do it in like, drive for like 3 or 4 hours and get through most of the country. Whereas if we came to see you, we'd have to drive for a day.
Yeah, I know. That's the one disadvantage. Like when bands say, "What could be so bad about touring in the USA?" I'm like, well, if you're playing in Syracuse, New York, and then you're playing in New York City the next day, you're going to be driving for at least 7 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did that. I mean, a few years ago, we did some Eastern European tours with Carnifex,
Oh yeah.
and we did like Moscow and St. Petersburg within 1 day of each other. So we finished one night and we drove for like 14 hours straight,
Oh God.
which is the longest we've ever had to drive anywhere for a show. So I can only they loved it. They do all the time, I guess, but
Yeah. That's
it was an experience for us.
that's Russia for you. Nothing is around the corner.
Yeah,
But thank you so.
100%, man.
But thanks again so much for your time, everybody. We are here with the 500. Be sure to check out the brand new album, A World on Fire, coming out tomorrow or today if you're just seeing this today, or it's out now. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.